Welcome to the Fifth Line episode, brought to you by ATB. What? That's all I got, guys. You were supposed to come in at that point.
I just figured that you had such confidence, such flow. I didn't want to mess with it.
That was all I had.
Can we get like a clean recording of just that and just like stop it when Joel stops, and that's the new Fifth Line intro?
I made sure that I didn't talk over it. You didn't talk over it. I think we have that. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's happening.
Just in case you're not sure what's happening, this is the Fifth Line podcast with
We're back.
The Woe Is Me Carl.
Mm-hmm.
The tiniest of mics.
Hello.
And me, the always wonderful Joel.
I like that. I didn't realize until now that I've been added a nickname, that I definitely stood out as the one without a nickname amongst the three of us. I'm glad that we fixed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also glad that Joel can recognize himself as always being wonderful. You know, it's a tough battle for a lot of us to grow that kind of confidence. But Joel, you're there, man. You got it.
All over that. Did you guys know that this episode is brought to you by ATB, who is the official power person? Are they a person? No, they're a bank.
I don't think it's just one person standing there. I don't think that's the person's initials. Just one person with a lot of money on a street corner in downtown Calgary, just handing it out to people. I don't think that's what it is.
That's probably why they listen so well, because there is so many of them that are able to listen and power the Alberta Podcast Network.
It's true. They are very good at that.
What else do we say about them? I always forget. ATB, they listen. They also support hockey, which is usually what we talk about, but not what we're going to talk about today.
No, Mike, why don't you let everyone know? I'm just going to sit on the back seat for the rest of it. Why don't you let everyone know what we're talking about today?
Oh, we're talking about stuff and things. Well, today we're talking about something that's near and dear to all of our hearts, seeing this is we just got done with the month of March, which over here in the States is known for the March Madness basketball tournament. Here's a newsflash for everybody. Joel, Carl, and I are not good at picking March Madness brackets. So after day one of the tournament, none of us had anything meaningful to talk about in terms of actual basketball.
That's not true. After day one, I had 15 out of 16 correct. It was day two that I fell apart.
Sorry, muffed it by a whole 24 hours. Well, the rest of us were out in day one. Carl was out in day two because he's Woe Is Me Carl. So instead, we started talking about Parks and Rec, one of our favorite shows, but more importantly, a show with a rich cast of characters, which is big enough for us to actually have a March Madness-style bracket tournament of who is going to be seen as the funniest, best, most representative of the Fifth Line values. Who is going to be the most Fifth Line Parks and Rec character? Gave us something fun to chew on for a couple of days, and we thought we might as well share it with everybody here.
Well, and so this is what I stumbled upon this on the internets and passed it along to the gentlemen for their thoughts on it. And it was a bracket that was already made, which was great. 64 characters from the show, which, again, rich cast. But I now realize, gave no criteria on how we picked it. Funniest, best, favorite, whatever, most important. So let's start there. Joel, how did you pick your bracket? What was your criteria that you based things on?
I just basically went on the person or thing I liked most. So do I like this more than the other? Yes, then they win. So does it bring you joy? Yeah, so it's either they're funnier, they brought more to the show, whatever. I was like, do I like this person more? For whatever reason it may be, that's who I went with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I went with pretty similar criteria, and I ran myself through an exercise as I was thinking through each matchup. And the exercise is, as I think back on the show, a lot of memories stick out in my head that make me laugh, giggle, make me thankful for having watched it. How often or who is more responsible for those or shows up in more of those moments between the two people that are getting matched up. So even if a character, and I don't want to spoil anything here, only shows up a handful of times in the show, but there's such concentrated awesomeness every time they do, well, that's going to be a person that I'll probably pick over some, maybe more regular cast of characters. So that's how I looked at it. I don't know, Carl, what was your guiding light here?
Yeah, mine was pretty much the same. So without talking about it, this is why we form a fantastic fifth line, an always wonderful fifth line, some might say. I looked at it as, does this character make me happy? Do I have great memories about them? And much like Mike, some of them have very minimal times that they were on screen and they won over for me. But what does stand out is the fact that I wanted to make sure, like, for me, there's the greatness of a moment surpasses many small moments. So if there's something where I'm like, this is one of my favorite parts of this show, you could have like 20 moments that are a 7, but you have 110, I want that. That's me. So Mike is nodding vigorously.
Extremely vigorously. I think I just hurt my neck.
Yeah, that's why Joel and I always do calisthenics before we record.
That's much more productive than my pregame ritual. Anyways, so let's take a look at some of the things that made our brackets similar and some of the things that made our brackets different. So, Carl, Joel, I don't know if you guys want to go through bracket by bracket or just call out some of our final fours. How do you think we should best go about this?
Do we want to start there? The divisions aren't named, but do we want to let's name them by the number 1 seed? So do we want to start with the Tom Haverford division?
We should.
I'm just looking here. So the Tom Haverford division has some significant differences between us. I would say the one with the biggest differences is probably the Ron Swanson division. So let's start with Tom. Number 1 seeds, Tom Haverford, Andy Dwyer, Leslie Knope, Ron Swanson.
Strong field of number 1s.
I think, right, because you look at length on the show, amount of time on screen, those are probably your biggest ones, right? And so you have those, and fan favorites as well. And Leslie Knope being the main character, even though she's not, I don't think I know anyone who says Leslie is their favorite. And I know Joel might even say that she's her least favorite. We'll find out if that's true.
Yeah, we're not gonna go like every matchup and talk about this because then we'd be here for like 4 hours. But yeah.
Buckle up, folks. We'll be here for approximately 3.5 hours.
So, I'm trying to think. What was there that big? I don't know where the biggest difference in the Tom Haverford one was, but we all had Tom winning the first 2 matchups. Carl, like the first most noticeable one is Carl making a very strange decision early on.
So, Joel made a choice that flew in the face of me and Mike. It was a 3 versus a 10. No, a 5 versus a 12. We know every tournament, as I did in my picking, that's how I won some points on day number 1. We know a 12 seed always upsets a 5. If you have the 5 winning every
100% of the time.
Right. You always pick a 12. So if you don't, your March Madness bracket was terrible. So I knew that when Champion the Dog was up against some guy named Craig, who I have literally no idea who he is in this show, I knew that Champion the Dog was making his way to the next round, and it wasn't even close.
Have you ever watched this show?
Yes, I have.
So you don't know who Craig is?
Every time. No, I genuinely remind me who Craig is. I have watched the show, but I do not. I've done this bracket. I've read through your brackets. I have been watching. I am rewatching it currently on season 5. I do not know who Craig is.
Craig is Donna's counterpart from, I forget, what's the, like...
Eagleton.
Eagleton. So Craig Middlebrooks, I believe his name is, I'm going to totally butcher this, Billy Eichner? Is that how you say it?
Eichner.
Is that Eichner? That's the character, but he's like Tom's. He becomes Tom's wine connoisseur at the restaurant.
Oh, Craig!
And he loses his mind on stuff. He is so much better than Champion. The dog's a chump, and like if Champion wasn't even on
legs.
If Champion wasn't even on the show, nobody would notice nor care.
Well, it sounds like Carl would notice.
I cared. Michael Torres picked him over Craig.
Yeah, but how far did Champion? You have Champion beating Tom. This might decredit. I don't know, whatever word that is. Words are hard as I'm getting all fired up about this. The fact that you have a dog beating Tom in the Parks and Rec bracket might say that we may not be able to look at your bracket anymore.
So, okay, aside from the fact that this is really the only part of our brackets that differ, the only one, and while Joel is being quite ferocious in his dislike of my bracket, I am going to fight fire with water and bring some kindness, because my only other thing of note in this branch of any of our brackets is the fact that Joel, in picking Jerry Gergich to go deep, in filling his bracket out, filled it out with Jerry, Larry, and Gary.
Hey,
good on Joel.
I know my Parks and Rec, so I was also a little surprised that you guys did go with Louis C.K. I don't remember much about him in the show, but I just could not vote for him. So I chose the guy that I have no idea who he is in Ken. I don't even know how to say that last name.
Ken Potate.
Yeah, that guy beat Officer Dave, because I was like, I don't know who it is, but I couldn't. But I'm okay with you guys attacking my bracket, though. I'm all right with that.
Well,
I know.
I wanted to give you some love, but
okay.
So here's the thing: we all have not true. Joel picked Craig, and then he picked Craig over Joan Calamezzo. Mike and I both picked Champion to defeat Joan. And then it comes down to Tom versus Champion, Tom versus Craig. Mike and Joel have Tom moving on. I have Champion moving on. And here is why. It is not a vote for Champion as much as it is a vote against Thomas Haverford.
Oof.
Oh, let's all be clear. In the final four of 64 Parks and Recs characters, Carl has a dog.
A three-legged dog. And what I enjoyed is that every single time Champion... So, first off, I guess in saying it's a vote against Tom greatly annoys me. There are not many moments where I'm like, Tom, I want more of what you're doing right now. He always left me wanting less. Whereas Champion always left me wanting more. He would come on the screen, he would hop on with his three legs, and I would say, that dog... I love dogs. I love the fact that they have this dog that is so loving, affectionate. Andy and April bring it in. It's part of their family. Every time Champion was on the screen, it left me wanting more. I have no negative experiences with Champion, which is why I put him over Tom.
So that seems to insinuate that you do have negative experiences with Tom. Can you remind us why he seems to bug you so much?
Well, one, he brought John Ralphio into our lives. So that's a strong mark against him. Like, strong mark against him.
I can't believe this.
I literally only picked John Ralphio to win because I picked him over a guy I didn't know and a porn star. That is literally, like, that's how John Ralphio got to where he was in my bracket. I was like, don't know who Dr. Harris is, and also Brandy Max has to lose.
Why does Brandy Max have to lose, Carl?
Well, I don't know, because she was up first. She did win one round. I had her beating Jen Barkley because Jen annoys me too. So that's one hit against Tom. The only, literally the only thing that I enjoy about Tom is the Snake Juice episode. Like, Tom bringing that into our lives, but even that, I'm like, Tom as a person he made that happen. But him in that episode is so annoying. It drives me crazy. I wanted him to stop and have everything around him continue.
That's very fair.
This is just like a super anti-Tom perspective. I'd be interested to know how far Tom would make it in this bracket if he had been in Leslie Knope's spot.
Ooh.
Because Leslie came up against very weak opponents.
Well, let's switch over. Do you want to switch over to the Leslie Knope division?
We can indeed.
So just to clarify, Tom came out of the bracket for Mike and myself. Champion came out for Carl. Because I don't think we said who the final four was for Mike.
Yeah, Mike had Tom beating Champion. So, Leslie Knope, she was the number 1 seed. And I had her losing in the round of 16. So she was a Sweet 16 elimination for me. To answer your question, Joel, I would have Tom losing in the exact same location if he had swapped in with Leslie Knope.
So did we not have... We all had Leslie losing in the same spot, did we not?
It looks like...
Yeah,
you purred correctly.
Ooh, I like what you did there. So she lost a purd to all of us.
Yeah, we were all... What would you call a big fan of purd?
Part of the purd herd?
We were certainly all purd herders.
So
absolutely, I would even say that this bracket, this region, probably should have been renamed the Purd region. I mean, he ended up not coming out of it ultimately in a lot of our, spoiler alert. But I got to say, as far as the spiritual patriarch of this region, maybe this overall bracket, Purd is the man.
Yeah.
The controversy isn't Purd. The really, and like, this is going to, I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but Mike and my brackets are very similar. And this is the other side of the bracket that has like major controversy with Carl.
I don't know. A 6 seed making it to the Final Four. So this was the division that had the hardest decision for me. So up one side, it was Leslie. The only person she came up against, she defeated Bobby Newport, and we knew Leslie could and would defeat Bobby Newport. So that happened. Then she lost to Purd. We all had her losing to Purd as well. I think all of our brackets had her losing or beating Bobby. So then on the second half of that bracket, you had, as the 2 seed, April Ludgate. Moving on, you had Mark Brandanowitz. I think we all had him moving on. And Little Sebastian. And this is where it gets messy. This led to me having the hardest decision because I, following in the footsteps of Joel and Mike, would have very much liked to have April in the Final Four. I wanted to. But I thought to myself, and this is part of what was the difficulty of it. In the same way that Champion brought humor about because of the antics of Andy and April, Little Sebastian was great as a character because of what he brought out in others. And is that not the truest sign of an actor? The truest sign of a teammate is what you bring out in those around you. And 5,000 Candles in the Wind is quite possibly my favorite moment in Parks and Rec history. I could not eliminate Little Sebastian and lose my favorite moment in the show.
I have nothing to say to this. I just can't even.
Well, I can absolutely. I mean, Carl is a man of his word. He sticks to his values. And when we said earlier that we're looking back at happy memories of the show, and one, how often does this character show up, and two, once you drop that stone into the lake, how many ripples are there? What's the after effects? If you're going by that, I mean, it's hard to imagine many characters in the show surpassing Little Sebastian just for the sheer moment of Ron and the crew acting like giddy school children when Leslie brings little Sebastian into the office for the first time. I mean, they all absolutely lose it. They're all like children in a candy store. So if that's what you value in your Parks and Rec, then little Sebastian has to be on your priorities list.
Like I am well aware. I believe in person, before his untimely passing, little Sebastian was on the show, I believe, 3 times. And yet left a lasting legacy. Mouse Rat's greatest hit being 5,000 Candles in the Wind. So, while I'm aware of the fact that all logic told me April should be better, April brings great joy to me constantly. Watched an episode last night where she thought she deleted all the files off the computers. She hid under a table the whole time. Exactly what all of us would have done. April does what we all want to do, but don't. I like that about her. So I'm aware. What do you guys have in your final 4? Who do you have coming out of this bracket?
Well, you mentioned that we both have April. So
it was more of like a talk to that point.
So April's just hilarious. I love, like, she is like dark but funny, and just kind of like you said, like everything, like we think a lot of the same things that she thinks, but yet don't necessarily act the way that she does because we just don't have it in us to do that. She's kind of like the person that we all wish we could be at work some days, but we just don't because we're like, we're totally going to get fired because we don't have Ron Swanson as our boss.
Exactly. When I was going through this bracket and I was running through that exercise of like, like what are my happy memories of the show around this character, I think I laughed for solid like 2 to 3 minutes thinking of all of April's nicknames and all of the ways that she's been mean to Anne over the years. Just her brazen disregard for someone that she chooses not to like, even though she secretly loves her, is one of the things that keeps me warm at night because that's absolutely the kind of blatant disregard for other feelings that I would love to be able to show in my day-to-day life. But kind of like Joel said, we're not actually terrible people, so we don't act on those impulses. Well, through April, we get to.
So I just couldn't bring myself to pick, like, little Sebastian definitely did not make it nearly as far. I actually
you didn't even pick. You just have an empty spot on your bracket.
No, that's Mike. That's not me.
Oh, Mike. Mike has an empty spot on his bracket.
I'm not sure. Mike, did you go little Sebastian or Mark Brandanowitz?
Oh, I did go little Sebastian just because I have no fond memories of Mark whatsoever.
I understand. Actually, I don't understand why little Sebastian made it as far. But, like, Carl is, like, he is going down with this ship, which, again, I appreciate that.
And in this case, this ship is an arc, because I've got Champion the dog and little Sebastian the pony. So, yeah, I'm going down with the arc. It's fine.
I'm actually really interested because, like, there's no middle ground here. People are going to be either completely on board with you, Carl, or completely against you. Like, there's no way.
I have left them zero leeway.
Yeah, so, like, I appreciate that you're not, like, going down the middle and being like, yeah, I'll try and, like, balance this out. You're just like, no, all the animals, all the time. Forget the people. April who? Let's go with the miniature horse.
Yeah, sure. Both of my picks in the final 4 are currently animals, but how many more animals could there be on this show? There's only one way to find out. To the next bracket.
Is Crazy Ira an animal? Kind of.
I think, yeah, he kind of is.
We going Ron Swanson or are we going Andy Dwyer?
Let's go to the Ron Swanson division. Taking a quick look at, are there any choices here that shock you are quite different?
This is probably the most similar division, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I would say so. Probably the biggest difference, and obviously because of when it happened. So Ron is the 2 seed. Donna is coming in as a 3 seed. We all had Ron and Donna as our final grouping for this bracket.
Elite 8.
The Elite 8. Joel went against the grain and picked Donna. What? Give us the reason.
Well, I love me some Tom.
I love you too. Oh, sorry. Continue.
And Donna is very, like, her and Tom are very, like, in sync a lot of the times. And, like, just like you, with 5,000 Candles in the Wind, I think my favorite moment, or at least, like, in the top 3, is the Treat Yourself. Like, those moments of the show, those kill me. I love them.
See, and I give Donna full credit on that. That is not... that Tom is a passenger on Treat Yourself Day. Donna is the one leading the charge on that. I 100%. That's what helped lead her all the way to my Elite 8.
And just, like, the weirdness about her being, like, rich, like, having, like, apartments in Seattle and, like, always, like, investing. Like, why does she have so much money? And why is she hilarious?
And why does she work in a Parks and Rec division?
Exactly. There's so much good about her. I love Ron Swanson. This was my toughest decision, not going Ron over Donna. And, like, I probably, like, give me a different day and I'd go Ron over Donna. But on the day that we made it, I went Donna, and I'll stick to that.
It was a last second shot. You put it up, and Destiny was the decider there. Mike, why'd you go Ron?
So I think, very similar to what you guys were saying. I mean, these are two characters I love dearly, and if they were in opposite brackets, these two could have each been in the Final Four. But they came up to each other now, and I think what made it for me is, although just like Joel, Treat Yourself is probably one of the lines that I repeat the most from this show, and Smile, even though Donna is the main vehicle for that. She went up against Ron, who represents, just aspirationally, like, so many things about how Ron carries himself are things that I wish that I could adopt into my own life, and just wish I could be a little more Ron Swanson in how I carry my own self. So I think when it came down to that, I think Ron won on the back of, he's just a guy I would like to hang out with and like to be a little bit more like in some ways, not necessarily in all, but yeah, I think that's what made the difference for me, is that Ron, I just couldn't shake that Ron seems to be pervasive in more than just show memories in my mind. I actually do find myself asking, what would Ron Swanson do here?
Yeah, and unless you're asking yourself what, like, luckily Mike does not have any ex-wives, so he can ask that question and be very safe with following that answer. So that is a good thing. Yeah, Ron for me. Mike stole a lot of what I was going to say, except what I was going to say was Ron encapsulates the character I most associate with. So, like, that is the character that certainly I do think I'm the closest to in some ways, but also want to be more so.
So do you have a bunch of gold?
No, I don't have any gold. No gold.
When I eat, it's the food who is scared.
I appreciate that you had to, like, think about that. Do I have, like, millions of dollars of gold buried in my backyard? Not so sure.
It's more like, do I want to advertise on a podcast with literally dozens of listeners that I have hoards of gold hidden throughout the city of Calgary? Nope, don't want to do that.
I appreciate that it's not in one place and that it's, like, throughout the whole city.
That's what Ron Swanson would do.
You are making me like your selection more right now.
Yeah, so we've got, for me and Mike, we have Ron in the Final Four, and Joel has Donna, which brings us to the Andy Dwyer division. This is one which had, again, fairly standard. I think this was the one we all agreed on the most. I'm actually not. I think the only difference is that I had Benjamin Wyatt defeating John Ralphio. That is the only difference across all three of our brackets. I had Ben Wyatt. I like I like his nerdiness, and the aforementioned John Ralphio annoys me severely. So I took John Ralphio out as soon as humanly possible. This was, again, a vote against John Ralphio more so than a vote for Ben Wyatt. But we all had Andy Dwyer, Andrew, Johnny Karate, Burt Macklin, Dwyer in the final four.
Only
Absolutely.
because I had to.
Wow. So we mentioned, or somebody else mentioned this earlier. I actually think that Andy had one of the toughest draws in this entire tournament. Now, we say that, we had a lot of solidarity amongst the fifth line in choosing him over the others. But looking at some of the guys that he beat, looking at Orin, who is so creepy that I absolutely love him. Looking at Councilman Jam, who outside of Purd might be like one of the most bang for your buck characters on this entire show as far as number of appearances to the number of times I remember and talk about him. To the aforementioned John Ralphio, even though he's not Carl's cup of tea, I absolutely adore him for the sense of humor that I despise in people in real life. So looking at all three of those victories that Andy crafted, he could have lost in any of those three to mine, but as we went through this, there were just too many fond memories, mostly 5,000 Candles in the Wind, that carried him every single time over some of my favorite bit characters.
See, for me, I will disagree with Mike. The Ron Swanson division was the hardest. Having Ron and Donna in that same division, but that's beside the point. Andy, the Burt Macklin character, the Johnny Karate character, especially Burt Macklin, like that makes me chuckle every single time. His raging insecurities with life. Ron is the character I aspire to be the most. Andy is the character I am the most. I'm just like, I see it. He says things. I'm like, Andy, you and me. So I enjoy that aspect of it. And also, I think, did we talk about this on an episode that outside of, or was it offline? The fact that Chris Pratt is my man crush.
I don't think we talked about it on the show, but like, he is most certainly. I think I'm so with Carl. There's no way this is the hardest division. Andy loses so quickly in almost any other division.
Well, that's not true. He would certainly clean up in the Tom division, but
Tom division I had is the easiest division by far.
Oh my goodness. This is crazy. That might be true. But this is probably the second easiest division. Like, he would lose out so quickly in like the Ron or Leslie division.
That's not true. But
yeah, I appreciate your love for him, Carl, but like, you can't talk rationally about Chris Pratt.
Here's the thing. You have to pick. For me, it would come down to, if you had to put him in the Leslie Knope division, it would have come down to a battle between April, Andy, and Lil Sebastian. And I obviously had Lil Sebastian winning. And I think you have to go the author of 5,000 Candles over the inspiration for 5,000 Candles, because truly Andy did create it. Because what is better than a candle in the wind? 5,000 candles in the wind.
Leslie, Purd, April all beat Andy Dwyer.
Oh, no.
Leslie Knope does not beat Andy Dwyer.
I am like so against Leslie. She almost lost to Bobby Newhart Jr. for me.
Bobby Newhart Jr.
What's his name? Newport, whatever.
Have a candy bar. My dad made it.
I can't. Like, Andy he is like Tom for me. For like, compared to how Carl feels about Tom, that's kind of how I feel about Andy. I just had no choice but to push him forward because like, this division was so bad.
Well, we're here, which brings us to the final four. Let's start from the Tom Andy side. We've got Tom Andy, and Champion versus Andy. I think in a battle between Andy and a three-legged dog, Andy Dwyer would win any day of the week. However, I have seen Champion defeat him in a a duel of sorts. So you never know. Either way, obviously, I went Andy. Moving on to the finals. Joel, Mike, what do you got?
So I'll say first that I was really surprised, Carl, to see you actually subvert your pro-animal, anti-human policies and actually take a real human being over champion the dog. So very surprised there.
I actually started considering when I got to this point in my bracket, is Parks and Rec a story about animals that's just like uses humans as their muse? It wasn't, because I went with Andy.
It's not. The animals are barely in the show.
Did I just watch 7 seasons of TV to see an animal 4 times?
Yeah,
the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah, but just like you, Carl, a vote for Andy is a vote for Burt Macklin is a vote for Johnny Karate. So Andy Dwyer hit the finals for me.
I went Tom. It wasn't close. Tom won 79-30. It was a shellacking.
Well, we all had very different matchups on the other side. None of them were the same. So, starting with myself, I had Little Sebastian versus Ronald J. Swanson. Ron won in a landslide. This one was, while I do love Little Sebastian, his legacy was maintained when Andy moved on. Ron solidly defeated Little Sebastian for the same reasons why Ron beat Donna. Donna, I think if Donna had been in the Leslie Knope division, she probably would have conquered. No, I'm not saying that. No, she wouldn't have. Little Sebastian still would have made it. Either way, Ron beat him because Ron versus Andy is literally when I have the debate of which Parks and Rec character I like the most. It's a toss-up between those two. So I figured it would probably come down to these two, and it did.
Well, so on my side, so I was looking at Ron versus April, and I think this is actually a really good case study because this is, Ron, the character who I aspire to be the most as far as being a positive role model, being productive, making something with my hands. Whereas April is the person I aspire the most to be as far as letting my true self out and being a pessimistic, judgmental, cynical person most of the time that I'm out in the world. And so I really had to stew on this one for a while. What do I identify with more? Which is more valuable to me? Which do I think of more in those happy moments when I'm thinking back on the show? And as much as I love Ron, as much as I enjoyed seeing him wear that little hat on his head while he's dancing on snake juice, as much as I see him enjoy seeing him solve a series of riddles, each one more intricate than the next, as much as I love seeing him order all the steak and eggs that you have, or I'm sorry, all the bacon and eggs you have, still, it was those little moments with April where she was revealing how cynical she really is, and in some rare moments how cynical she really isn't, that I really found much more of a connection and found myself thinking much more fondly around. So, long story long, I chose April over Ron.
I see if Ron and Donna was my toughest decision, second toughest decision was April versus Donna. And I also moved April on to the championship game. She's just made me laugh so much. This is just really what it came down to. Like, I was kind of like, and how I came to this decision, I was like, who would I miss more if they weren't in the show? And I went with April.
So solid logic. So that brings us to, we have, again, 3 different finals. Joel has Tom versus April, Andy versus April for Mike, and Andy versus Ron. Now, we all know who we picked as the champion, but this is it. This is the best character in Parks and Rec history. How difficult of a decision was this for you guys?
So I can say, and sorry not to be a jerk to the person who lost out, not very difficult at all for me. I think it's very appropriate that in my bracket, April and Andy ended up together because when I look back at the show, memories of them together are some of the fondest memories that keep on coming up for me on a recurring basis. Having them go to prom, when they first fell in love with each other, and a lot of the off-screen bloopers that the two actors shared together. I mean, really have me in stitches all the darn time. I am not sure if we're going to go ahead and reveal who we chose as our individual winners right now, but when it came down to thinking of who from Parks and Rec really drove a lot of this happiness for me, April and Andy together was a singular unit in my mind for a lot of it. So I think it's awfully appropriate that we put, or at least that I put them here in the finals to square off to see who in that relationship really drove a lot of that happiness from me.
You should probably just tell us.
Then I chose April. So great relationship, hilarious couple together, but it was really April's moments of being the cynical one. After Andy does something stupid, her side eye, her cutting comments, her pessimism, that's what really kept me coming back to the show over and over again. I absolutely love April.
Well, Joel, did you follow in Mike's footsteps, choosing April over Tom?
Yep. Do you want more than that? I don't know. I don't know. Like, it was tough. I love Tom. He's funny, but again, I went with the logic of who would I miss more, and it would be April.
Yeah.
So and she just makes everyone funnier. The reason why Andy probably made it as far for me as he did is because he's always associated with April. It's you take April away from that, and you're just like, oh no, Andy just lost to Oren.
But I love Oren.
Exactly.
I'm glad that you had him at least beating Kyle the Shoeshine guy. So I had Ron versus Andy. Again, I mentioned this is the debate that I always have. By mentioning the fact that Chris Pratt would be my man crush, I think that goes without saying that he did move on to be the champion for me. And that is something that I am very okay with. Andy brings to me the laughs. Almost every time he's on screen, I laugh. Like when he accidentally steals the briefcase and breaks a light doing it, trying to throw it back. Hilarious. Just the physical comedy. He's the only one on the show who brings the physical comedy with the verbal comedy. He's a double threat. I love that about him. Andy Dwyer, congratulations. You are my champion.
So this is the question that I really have then. So we have two chose April, one chose Andy. I don't know if this is going to cause that much controversy. I think it would have been a bigger issue if a lesser character had made it. I even wonder if Donna had made it. If I had chosen Donna, it's probably more controversial than April, Andy, or Ron, or Leslie. But the question that I'm really wondering, because Carl keeps mentioning this, and you keep mentioning the guys that the characters that you think you are most like on the show, and so I'm interested to know. We can't choose for ourselves, but the other two, who would you say each of us are? So Mike and Carl, who do you think I'm most like on the show? Me and Carl for Mike, and then whatever the other pairing is that I didn't say.
You two for me.
There you go. It's been a long day.
Well, Mike, do you want me and you to go first for Joel?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to start us off.
All right. Well, from all 64 characters, Joel does have all of his appendages, so he's not champion. Mm. He's also still with us, so he's not Lil Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
Just are obsessed with those animals.
Well, here's the thing. I know that you guys are both people that I would take deep into this tournament. So you're at least Elite 8 individuals for my bracket. So you're not Tom Haverford, thank goodness. Maybe you're Jerry.
I already know who I'm going to say for Joel.
Joel is a little Jerry. Joel is a little bit April-y. He is...
No! Joel is Donna Meagle. No. Joel is Donna.
Joel is not Donna. Okay, make your case for Donna.
I love Joel and I love Donna. Treat yourself.
That's a good argument.
That's a fair argument. I could make the same case. I could literally make the same case. I love Champion. I love Joel. Roof.
All right, I'll say that Joel brings the same devil-may-care attitude to the fifth line as Donna does to The Office and Parks and Rec. And in both cases, that's a big part of our secret sauce of what makes us us and why those dozens and dozens of people out there love us.
I think why I think that I would go more the April side than Donna is because Joel, for a very similar reason, there is an amount of Joel that literally, like, he doesn't care. Like, when Joel says, I don't care, there's a lot of times where people are like, oh, like, what do you actually think? When Joel says, I don't care, he genuinely does not care what the answer to it is. So, like, and that's what that's the April side of it that I see. Because April, she couldn't care less about things. Joel very little likes to bother himself with the drama, the shenanigans of other people. He just wants to do it, and sometimes it's fun to mess with people. And Joel certainly does not shy away from finding opportunities to mess with people.
All right, fine, I yield. You win. Joel is April.
So I would like to... I think I have a really good argument for who Carl is.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. So Carl is... He brings balance to the fifth line, to the fourth line, to my life.
I'm already not liking this answer, but go with it.
He brings balance. He is really good at what he does. He's always really good at it. He's very statsy. There's no question in my mind that Carl is Ben Wyatt.
Oh, all right. Now I got to come up with a new one. I agree.
You just agree with me.
You can agree.
I did. I just agree with all those points. So if I'm going to play devil's advocate and choose anything else, I will say this. Carl is a fantastic addition to everything that he takes part in, from work to podcast to podcast to podcast to podcast to school. And I think a lot of the value that he brings is just being himself and bringing that charm. So who else, what other person or animal in Parks and Rec has done nothing but be themselves and still just light up the world of everyone around them? It's for that reason that I would suggest that Carl is actually Lil Sebastian.
I light up the room like 5,000 candles.
Like 5,000 candles.
Joel is 100% correct. Yeah,
he is. He really is.
Without a doubt. I am Ben Wyatt, and it's not even close. Like, no one's like, you know who my favorite is? Carl. But, like, he makes things happen. He wins that thing. He does it. He takes the calculated scenario the entire time. He's like, well, this is what we should do. This is what we're going to do. He gets, like, overworked by when things don't go the way that they should. Yeah. Ben Wyatt is 100% me. Joel, you were so on point with me. Do you have an equally great answer for Mike?
I kind of want to say Tammy too. But I'm not going to.
Mike's ferocity is well known. We know that.
Yeah.
Just
there is... I don't know if there's anyone that I've met that gets, like, just doesn't get worked up about very much. He doesn't get upset with people. I think, like, Mike's a very positive person.
And, like, even. He's very even.
Yeah, well, that doesn't work well with where I was going with this.
Okay.
Chris Traeger is not an even-keeled person. But I was like, from that, just like very like positive, go-getter attitude. I don't know. It's either that, like, I want him to be Jean-Ralphio, but I'm sorry, Mike, you're not. I would like you to be him, but I don't know. I can't think of... I don't know. This is probably one of the tougher, like... It could be, like... I don't know. Could Mike be Donna? I could see that.
I think of any one of us, Mike is the most Donna.
For sure.
We have heard the stories of Mike treating himself to some late-night shopping online.
Yeah.
Mike is 100% the most treat yourself of all of us. Joel and I are incredibly frugal, especially compared to Mike.
Oh, for sure.
Mike is the most Donna out of all of us.
I just don't know if he's the most Donna out of this list.
Yeah, like, Mike is wearing a patterned T-shirt right now. Like that's pretty fancy.
Premium cotton.
It doesn't have a collar, but it looks like it should. And that's the joy of it. You just assume, looking at what he's wearing, oh, that's a nice colored shirt. No, he's got the relaxing in there as well. For me, I think Chris is a solid choice.
Maybe he's like a mix of Donna and Chris.
I think he could be a mix of Donna and Chris, yeah.
A little bit of animal control, guys.
I honestly, other people that I thought of putting in Mike's place were the animal control guys, because I'm like, there's a little bit of that. Mike's also a little bit purred, like just a tiny bit purred. So Mike is a quarter Chris, a quarter Donna, a quarter animal control guys, and a little purdy. He doesn't give up like the puns that come from Purd. While Purd does not intentionally do them, Mike often will deliver his hilarity in the same dry manner that Purd will, except Mike is intentional and Purd has no idea he's doing it. And so to me, that's where I draw the similarities.
Oh, well, I would be proud to call myself even 1/4 Purdvert. But Joel, I got to tell you, you're give me a little bit of anxiety comparing me to Chris Traeger. If we look at my bracket, that is the 115 versus 2 seed upset that we have in this entire thing. I took Detlef Schrempf over Chris Traeger because Chris just does not do it for me. So while I appreciate the positivity, I would not enjoy being labeled a Chris Traeger in real life.
I was going to say, if anyone is going to be compared to Detlef Schrempf, that is Mike Torres. If we're going through all 64 scenarios, while he's tiny on the podcast, he is large in real life and is the only one who is even remotely close to being able to play basketball.
That's true. There are some, like, I don't know, because like I was even like, there's probably even a little bit of Ann Perkins in Mike. You could see that.
No.
Oh, totally. Mike, take care. He's a caretaker.
Certainly, yeah.
And that's
fine.
Definitely Ann. Ann, she was a nurse. She took care of Andy. She wanted a baby. She took care of Leslie. I don't know. There's that's the thing. I don't know if there's one person on here, but
so what we've determined is that Mike is Parks and Rec. And I think that's all. I think that's a great place to go. We had an entire second topic planned for this episode. We didn't get to it, folks. That most certainly did not happen today. Does anyone else have any? Do you guys have any closing remarks or thoughts on this bracket?
No. Well, I don't necessarily have any remarks on the bracket, but I mean, I was doing some thinking late last night and, thinking about the world of our favorite shows and how much we'd like to be a part of them. So I do have a little bit of a weird question for you guys if you have time.
Mike's weird question.
All right. So here we are, just got done talking about all the characters that we know and love in Parks and Rec. And I'm thinking also, that's very much a show that I would like to join. But it's a little too easy to just say I would move to Pawnee and just join the gang and be accepted just like that. So I wanted to introduce a little flavor, a little street flavor into this. So I want to ask you guys a question. Let's use Parks and Rec as an example, but eliminate it from our choices. So if you wanted to join a show, but in order to join the show in the group of friends, you had to be gangland style, jumped into the cast. You had to fight every single cast member at the same time and survive that fight. And let's even add the stipulation of winning that fight in order to join the cast. Which cast would you go for? What's that perfect balance of a cast that you would really want to hang out with, but that you also think you could survive or win that gangland style jumping in ritual? What do you guys think?
Well, I'll go first. As the Ben Wyatt of the show, I think we all look at Ben and say he can't handle it. He's not street. That is certainly a fact. Mike said he was going street. And I was like, as Ben Wyatt, I am not. But we do know that he can handle his own in a fight, taking out the one individual who was confronting Leslie during her election campaign. So we know Ben has a right hook to him. So I am able to handle myself. The only question that I have is what the first show that came to mind, and I started thinking, like, there anyone on this show that I would be remotely terrified to fight? And the answer was no. My first answer is Friends. That is a crew that I 100% could handle my own against, especially in a street fight. There is not a single person on that show that I think I would be scared of.
I got to say, Carl, that was the example that I was thinking of as we're trying to assign the low side of, the cast that I could definitely take in a fight versus the high side of a cast that I definitely cannot take in a fight. Friends was my was who I was thinking of for that low end. So you absolutely nailed it there. I don't know, Joel, what do you think about that?
I really want to say Scrubs, but Turk would kill me. And so I can't say that. So I have no idea. I am...
And you do not want to get on the janitor's bad side. You know that. So...
No, that guy's all bark, no bite.
Yeah. So Scrubs, along with Parks and Rec, are the two of the shows that I absolutely ruled out because there's no way I could take Turk and the Todd at the same time. And on Parks and Rec side, there is no way that Ron and Andy and anybody else from that crew is going to be held back just by little old me. So Joel, think about this. This was my happy middle ground. How I Met Your Mother, because sure, Marshall is a large lad, but he also has a gentle soul. So I do believe that there is some room there for us to be able to win that fight outright. At the same time, that's a pretty fun group. They hang out at a bar all the time. They've got lots of adventures, a lot of drama, and to keep things interesting. Like that's probably the middle ground I would choose if I was looking for some group that I can take in a fight, but also enjoy hanging out with outside of that.
Yeah, because I win all day long versus Big Bang Theory, but I want no part of that.
And at the same time, similarly, if you're going up against the core four from Seinfeld, I think we can all agree, sure, Kramer is unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to bring to you. And while I love that show, I could not think of a more insufferable group of four people to spend my days with.
I don't know. That might be the one. I was that's if I had to
really
go,
good one.
I was if I'm going to go there, I can probably, George doesn't scare me. Jerry doesn't scare me. Elaine doesn't scare me. Kramer, that's all I got to worry about.
Certainly, we could all single-handedly beat them in a fight. That is not an issue. That is the one that you could do the best against. But if I was then forced to hang out with them, I think I would rather try my hands trying to beat. I don't think I could beat. I'm much less confident in my ability to beat Marshall Erickson in a fight than Mike is. But if I could beat Marshall, I would take that crew because Ted and Barney are turtling fast.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say really quickly how proud I am that not a single one of us said the Brady Bunch.
Fair.
My next mention was going to be the fact that I do not want to fight the Golden Girls.
Oh, that's you. Who's the Canadian girl from How I Met Your Mother again? What's her name?
Robin Shablatsky.
Yeah, I don't want to fight her. She has guns all the time in that show.
She grew up playing hockey.
Yeah, that's the thing. How I Met Your Mother. Can you get past Robin? And
Marshall at the same time.
Well, yeah, and Lily's the worst. So you know that she is going to just fight extremely dirty.
Oh, yeah. Lily's dirty for sure.
She does not honor the timeouts during fights anymore.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I'm going to go Seinfeld.
Are you going Seinfeld? I think I would probably go Friends.
And then I go How I Met Your Mother. There we go.
Well, I'm a little sad none of us ended up in the same universe to be able to hang out and also help each other win a fight, but I guess that's the way it goes.
Yeah, were there any Friends spin-offs that I can... what was the Joey Tribbiani spin-off that I can go for?
Joey? Wasn't it just called Joey?
much like Joey Tribbiani, that show did not have a lot of depth to it.
Well, there you go.
That has been Mike's Weird Question, as well as our deepest of dives into the world of Parks and Rec, picking our favorites from the bracket. Thanks for getting the band back together this week. It has been much too long. I think it's been 2 months since the fifth line was together, but it was too long. I'm glad we could do this.
I agree. It was good, even though I didn't realize Carl's love of animals.
Yeah.
I think
that's good. Let's remind everyone of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. As well, they are a proud sponsor of this year's Pod Summit, Western Canada's podcast conference. It is May 5th at CKUA in Edmonton, and it will be a day of learning and connecting, connection making, plus some amazing giveaways. If you have a podcast and you want to learn how to make it sound better, grow your audience, create better content for your show, head over. If you don't have a podcast but you want to know how to start one, join that as well. You'll be able to meet a ton of great other people who are into podcasts, have podcasts, part of the podcast community, and that is arguably one of the greatest things you will take away from this event. Tickets are $150. You can find them at podsummit.com. Head over there May 5th, so it's just a month away, so make that happen before it's too late. You can find us at thefourthlinepodcast.com, on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. Let us know. We'll tweet out when this goes out the bracket. You can fill it out. Let us know who you would pick as your Parks and Rec person. If you pick someone different, let us know. If you pick the same, the way Joel is leaning right now, it looks like his head is on Mike's shoulder, so that's pretty cute. As well, we have we're on the facebook.com/the Fourth Line Podcast, and that's it. Until next week, I'm Woe Is Me Carl with Tiny Mike and the always wonderful Joel.
Boom City.
You can sign off too, Mike.
This is my sign off.